Hello students, let us know about 12 cranial nerves and easy trick to learn these cranial nerves through this video. What are cranial nerves? Cranial nerves are set of 12 nerves, means 12 pairs of nerves that originate from the brain. They are called as cranial nerves. These nerves emerge from the underside of the brain and they are numbered. इनको नंबर किया जाता है on the basis of their location from front to back of the brain. Cranial nerves basically information को पहुंचाती हैं to various parts of the body from the brain or from the various parts of the body to the brain, or you can say cranial nerves relay information to and from various parts of the body to the brain. There are two types of neurons which are present in these nerves. They are afferent neurons and efferent neurons. Afferent neurons are sensory neurons. They take messages to the brain from organs, while efferent neurons are motor neurons which take signals from the brain to muscles or to some target cells. Diagram 1 in picture is showing afferent neuron or sensory neuron, and diagram 2 is showing efferent neuron or motor neuron. Out of 12 cranial nerves, some are afferent or sensory, some are efferent or motor, and some are mixed, or you can say both sensory and motor. Now remember one thing, remember इन cranial nerves को Roman numeral से represent किया जाता है. Now let us see 12 cranial nerves, their names and their functions. सभी cranial nerves की लोकेशन को हम डायग्राम से ही स्टडी करेंगे. स्टार्ट करते हैं. Cranial nerve number 1, it is the olfactory nerve. It arises from the cerebrum and it is a sensory nerve and is responsible for smell. It transmits sensory information to your brain regarding smell that you encounter. जो भी आप smell करते हो, all information reaches to brain through olfactory nerve only. CN2, cranial nerve number 2 is a optic nerve. This also originates from the cerebrum. This is again a sensory nerve and is responsible for transmitting the sensory information for vision. देखने में help करती है optic nerve. Remember one important point, सिर्फ olfactory and optic nerve cerebrum से originate होती हैं and rest of the cranial nerves are originated from brain stem. CN3, oculomotor nerve, originates from midbrain. It is a motor nerve and help करती है आई की मूवमेंट में, आईलिड्स के एलिवेशन में, प्यूपिल कंस्ट्रिक्शन में, मीन्स प्यूपिल के साइज को चेंज करने में अकॉर्डिंग टू अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ लाइट, एंड ऑल्सो इट हेल्प्स इन लेंस एकोमोडेशन अकॉर्डिंग टू डिस्टेंस ऑफ द ऑब्जेक्ट. बट इफ दिस नर्व इज डैमेज देन आई इज यूजुअली डेविएटेड डाउनवर्ड एंड आउटवर्ड. आई की मूवमेंट अपवर्ड एंड इनवर्ड नहीं हो पाती है अगर इस नर्व को डैमेज हो जाए तो. नेक्स्ट इज CN4, trochlear nerve. This nerve also arises from the midbrain and it is also a motor nerve and help in the downward, outward and inward movement of the eye. And if there is any injury in this trochlear nerve, it causes weakness of downward movement of eye. As a result, affected eye drifts upward relative to the normal eye as shown in the picture. आई की मूवमेंट नीचे की ओर नहीं हो पाती है और आई ऊपर की साइड ड्रिफ्ट कर जाती है इफ देयर इज एनी इंजरी इन द ट्रॉक्लियर नर्व. CN5 is the trigeminal nerve which originates from the pons. It is both sensory as well as motor nerve. This trigeminal nerve is responsible for facial sensation and is divided into three parts: V1 ophthalmic, V2 maxillary and V3 mandibular. Due to these three parts, the name given is trigeminal. You can see these three parts in the upper diagram. Trigeminal nerve का sensory function है, it is responsible for giving sensation to 2/3 part of the tongue, और इसका motor function है mastication of food, that is biting and chewing of food. C and 6. Sixth cranial nerve, it is abducens. See its location in the diagram. It is originated from pons and is a motor nerve. It plays important role in eye movement and involved in mainly outward movement of the eye. So remember, eyes के movement के लिए CN3, CN4 and CN6 cranial nerves responsible हैं. Let us move to CN7. Facial nerve. It is the seventh cranial nerve. It arises from pons and is both sensory as well as motor nerve. It is responsible for sense of taste for most part of the tongue. This is its sensory role. While its motor function is, it is responsible for facial movement and expression and also for functioning of tear and salivary glands. But if there is any injury in the facial nerve, then it causes facial muscle paralysis and weakness of one or both sides of the face as shown in the picture above. Eighth cranial nerve, vestibulocochlear nerve. It arises from pons and medulla. It is a sensory nerve and you can see two parts of this nerve in the diagram. First cochlear and second vestibular. That is why the name given vestibulocochlear nerve. Both these parts of the nerve enters the ear and help in hearing and balancing. Cranial nerve, ninth. It is glossopharyngeal nerve. It originates from medulla oblongata. It is both sensory as well as motor nerve. Its sensory function is, it is responsible for sense of taste of posterior 1/3 part of the tongue, and its motor function includes swallowing and salivation. C and 10. 10th cranial nerve is a vagus nerve. It arises from medulla oblongata and is both sensory as well as motor nerve. It runs from brain through face and thorax to the abdomen. बहुत लंबा रूट है वेगस नर्व का. You can see in lower diagram how vagus nerve connects brain with all body parts. It is the longest nerve और ट्रांसमिट करती है इंफॉर्मेशन को to or from the surface of the brain to tissues and organs elsewhere in the body. CN11, spinal accessory nerve or accessory nerve. It arises from medulla oblongata and from cervical region of the spinal cord. That is why the name given spinal accessory nerve. It is the motor nerve and is responsible for movement of shoulder and head. And lastly, CN12, hypoglossal nerve. It originates from medulla oblongata and it is also a motor nerve and helps in tongue movement. Now, let us see how to remember the names of these cranial nerves. क्रेनियल नर्व्स के नेम्स को इस सेंटेंस की हेल्प से लर्न करेंगे और सेंटेंस ग्रे कलर के कॉलम में मेंशन किया गया है. एंड सेंटेंस इज वंस ओलिव ओमकारा ट्रेवल्ड टू आलियाज फर्नांडिस विला एंड गेव वैल्यूएबल आर्टिस्टिक हैंडबैग. सेंटेंस के हर वर्ड के फर्स्ट लेटर से क्रेनियल नर्व का नाम स्टार्ट होगा. सी हाउ. वंस ओलिव ओमकारा olfactory optic oculomotor traveled to trochlear trigeminal alias Fernandez Villa abducens facial vestibulocochlear and gave valuable artistic bag glossopharyngeal vagus accessory and hypoglossal. Remember one point, accessory nerve is also called as spinal accessory nerve. So let us repeat the sentence. It is once Olive Omkara traveled to alias Fernandez Villa and gave valuable artistic handbag. So with this sentence you can remember the names of all cranial nerves. Further, let us learn types of cranial nerves, that is, whether they are sensory nerve, whether they are motor nerve, or whether they are both sensory as well as motor nerve through this sentence. Olive Omkara ने आलिया फर्नांडिस को बैग दिया. See what type of bag it was. It was soft, stylish, medium maroon bag made by Switzerland-based big marketing multinational. इस सेंटेंस में एस से स्टार्ट होने वाला वर्ड सेंसरी नर्व को डिपिक्ट करेगा, एम से स्टार्ट होने वाला वर्ड मोटर नर्व को डिपिक्ट करेगा एंड बी से स्टार्ट होने वाला वर्ड बोथ सेंसरी एंड मोटर नर्व को डिपिक्ट करेगा. सो cranial nerve number 1, number 2 and number 8, they are sensory nerves. Cranial nerves number 3, number 4, number 6, number 11 and cranial nerve number 12, they are motor nerves. While cranial nerve number 5, number 7, number 9 and number 10, they are both sensory as well as motor nerve. So, with these two sentences, you can easily remember the names of cranial nerves and types of cranial nerves. So, that's all for today. Thank you very much for staying with me. Subscribe the channel to get the information about my new video. Thank you so much.